mark, and then we are going to look at the distance formula. Please correct me if any of these are wrong. I don't believe they are, but there's always a possibilities for mistakes. Okay, number 1, I get 6, 1 as my midpoint. 6, 1 I get as my midpoint. Number 2, I get -1, 4, -1, 4. Number 3, I get -3 and -3 halves, or -1 1/2. -3 and -3 halves. Yes?
For number 3, I got -3, -2.
All right. So it does help to do these also, not just graphically, but also the algebraic way. So you get that I go -5 and -1 is -6. Divided by 2 is -3. Agreed? -6 and 3 gives me -3. Divided by 2 is -1 1/2. So it can look like it's at -2 on my graph and not be -2. Which is why the algebraic way for checking is important. Because it's harder to see fractions if you do it graphically. Okay, number 4, I get -1/2 and -1/2. Any questions on any of these? Okay, let's look at the distance formula then. The distance formula is all about the Pythagorean theorem. So, we are going to look at some Pythagorean theorems. All right, we've got a triangle here where we've got 5, 12, and x. So how am I going to set this up for Pythagorean theorem, guys? Let me zoom in a little.
5 squared plus 12 squared equals c.
5 squared plus 12 squared, and in this case, c is x squared. Okay, so we get 25 plus 144 equals x squared. And 25 plus 144 is what, guys? 169 equals x squared. And if we take the square root of 169, what do we get?
13.
13? Do we agree? Square root of 169 is 13? It's okay. We could also, what is the other possibility? It could be 13 or what? It could be -13, but does it make sense to have a negative distance?
No.
Which is why we're just going to use the positive. Okay. All right. Let's look at the next one. How am I going to set this one up? X squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. So x squared plus 16 equals 25. Subtract 16 from both sides. X squared equals 9, so x equals 3. All right, we get the point, right? All right, we don't need to keep going. Let's move on to number 2, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use distance, the Pythagorean theorem to find distance. So I'm going to put a dot on 2, 3, and 6, 9. Okay, again, I'm going to build my triangle like we did for midpoint. Okay, and so it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it goes over 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, do you see how I have a right triangle now? So I can go 6 squared plus 4 squared equals, and I'll call this c squared. So 36 plus 16 equals c squared. 36 and 16 gives me 6 and 6 is 12. 3, 4, 5, 52 equals c squared. And so who's got a calculator? What's the square root of 52? C is approximately what?
7.2.
7.2. That's my distance. Okay? Why don't you guys try number 3? Plot the points and connect them with a ruler. Draw the slope triangle. Note that it is a right triangle. Use Pythagorean theorem. You solve. How are we doing? Do we need a little more time? All right, I'm going to do it. -2, -3, -8, -7. I'm going to draw in my slope triangle. I like using the two different, like one pen, one pencil, so I can see the difference. I think it's easier. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 squared plus 6 squared equals c squared. 16 plus 36 equals c squared. 52 equals c squared, and we know the square root of 52 is 7.2. Okay? All right. I don't think we need to keep going over and over again. What I do want you to see is the actual formula, so you don't need to graph it each time. So if you get it, you can graph it. So let's use number 2 as an example. We've got -2, -3, -8, and -7. Okay? So from here, we somehow got 4 squared plus 6 squared equals c squared. Okay? How from these x's, wait, what was the x value? The x value was 6. So let's switch these. 6 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. So how from these did we get 6? -2 and -8, what would you have to do to them to get +6? -2 minus a -8 makes this plus, right? Okay, and the same thing for the next one. -3 minus a -7 makes this plus. Okay, and then we did what to them? We squared them, and we added them together. And then we took the square root, right? So let's instead make this A, B, C, and D. So we took A minus C squared plus B minus D squared, and we took the square root of it. That right there is the distance formula. Okay? So of course you can graph at each time. But know that there is a formula because when we get into this, the whole point of this is the activity that we will do. Ask you to find the distance formula 6 times inside like a quadrilateral. So it gets very complicated. So it's nice to just have a formula. Questions about this? Yes, Brock.
Doesn't the square root and the 2, doesn't that cancel out?
This?
No, I mean the square root and the power.
It would, except we're adding them together first. So it doesn't. If it was just like a minus c squared square rooted, then they would cancel out and we would just have a minus c. But when you add it to something, you have to do it first. Okay. Any other questions? Everybody feels confident that they can do their homework?
So, on the homework, do we have to graph it?
You do not. You can just use the formula if you want. Any other questions?